All right, one, two, three. We're here with Brahms Chouity. It's a pleasure to have you on here, Brahms. Thank you for joining us on the 123 podcast, hosted by myself, Michael, and Ian. It's such an honor to have you. You know, I was just looking at your story and looking into you. Quite incredible, journey you've had. So I want to ask you so many different things. I know you have like 20 to 30 different startups. You know, you've had quite a story, and now you're doing a food blogging. I saw you were at home with your kid for a whole year. I read that whole article, pretty great article on you. We'll attach the link to this article in the description of this podcast episode too on YouTube, so the audience can go read in detail all of these things. But while we're with you, of course, can you share Brahms this story? Who is Brahms, if you can? I know there's so much, but maybe a nice highlight of some sort.
How much time you got, Michael?
I know. You have a lot going on, but who is Brahms to someone that's introduced, meeting you today, seeing you for the first time?
All right. First of all, Michael, Ian, thank you guys so much for having me over. I've been a huge fan of your pages ever since you guys started, way before I even got into the whole Instagram scene. So you guys were always like an inspirational and aspirational page that everybody wanted to follow. So well done on that. To summarize who I am, listen, it's tough to summarize 45 years in one sentence and do it justice. But I remember at my second TED Talk, the opening line was, I'm a Lebanese Australian serial entrepreneur with over 30 startups in 20 years, a hotel school graduate that used to drive rich clients around town, hoping to sell them apartments in Beirut and broker oil deals in Saudi Arabia so I could make enough money to build my gaming website and start a fashion business, only to become a food blogger at age 40. So that's basically the
That's
best
a
I
good
can
little
do.
summarize. I like how you touched on do it justice too. It's quite hard to do that, but I appreciate the quick brief summary. So let me do my justice here. Let me do my end. Let's ask you this. So Brahms, where were you? Let's take it to where were you born? Where were you raised?
I was born and raised, born in Beirut in 1978, smack bang in the middle of the Civil War. And my dad, who's always wanted better things for us, moved us out of Lebanon a few years later. And so for the next 20, 25 years, it was Lebanon, Cyprus, Greece, France, Saudi Arabia for most of my life, Australia, which is my second home, back to Lebanon, Europe. I studied in Lausanne, Switzerland, and then came back to Lebanon after 25 years, married, and have been here ever since. So that's basically 45 years of traveling.
Very, very cool. So that's awesome. Quite a lot of movement. So let me ask you, was your dad entrepreneurial? Like what got you into, well, I imagine you got kind of some inspiration driving around, let's say, wealthy individuals, right? So you were probably around this type of energy and vibe you absorbed something, I can imagine, from being in that environment. But what did that get you entrepreneurial? Like how did you go about starting 30 companies? The very beginning, like what forms this mentality, for some?
Ever since I can remember, Michael, my greatest source of entrepreneurial experience and if you want intuition was my father. I mean, ever since I can remember, I've watched him grind. I've watched him come up with different concepts. I've watched him reinvent himself every time he had to struggle. They really had it bad those days. I mean, there were no tools for them to create companies. So they really had to like start bottom up. So absolutely, my dad, first and foremost, was my greatest source of entrepreneur. And I knew early on, it was either I was going to be like him or nothing at all.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how old were you? And I know you touched on it was hard to, start businesses. I read in your article, an interview you did, where you said not that you envy the youth, but you touched on something like this where the youth, it's so much more accessible to start a company today with the internet.
Absolutely. Let me take you back to my first company. It was 2002, fresh out of a university. 2002, mind you, no social media. The term social media didn't even exist. I mean, the internet was if you want primitive, except for Google and search engines, there was nothing really in terms of tools. There were no platforms where you could exchange ideas like the ones we have now. There were no B2B platforms. There were no B2C platforms. You could not create, if you wish, any kind of soft enterprise. Soft meaning you needed an office, you needed a fax machine, you needed employees, you needed a phone line, sales calls. I mean, I can make 50 sales calls a day. Back then, you were limited by how many hours in a day you had to actually get in the car or a subway, drive to a client, have a massive printout with you, because of course you couldn't email the presentation beforehand. So I could tell you a million ways why kids these days have it easier, even though I'm sure they don't believe me. I mean, my son is the first.
Well, everything is relative, too. There's negatives and positives, easies, right? But definitely, when you're an entrepreneur, I start businesses all the time. I'm a serial entrepreneur too. I've started so many companies. I don't know. I don't even have a count. It could be around there. I don't think so, but it's a lot. And I feel with the internet too, you kind of get that inspiration and that. Okay, wait, let me source that product. Let me see how I can market it, the images. I have all the tools right here. Let me put it together.
Michael, research a concept.
Yeah.
Today takes you half an hour of YouTube.
It's so underrated, right?
Exactly. Research in my days took a lot of legwork.
Yes, I can imagine. So let me ask you, so what was the exact first business? I know you touched on, saying what it was. What was that first idea that you started, and how old were you?
Exactly. Okay, so when I wanted to get into hotel management, because in the 90s, it was like the thing. Everybody wanted to work in hotels because it was so glitzy and glamoury. I wish I knew then what I know now. So my dad came up to me, he said, listen, hotel school is extremely expensive. And if you really want to do this, you got to show me how dedicated you are. And you either get accepted into the best school on earth, or let's choose something else for you. So I did. I kept grinding for 6 months until I got accepted into Lausanne, which is the most prestigious school on earth. And after 5 years of military service education, I remember all the students in my class talking about climbing the corporate ladder. See, I had no interest in climbing any ladders after that. I just wanted to take the elevator. So fresh out of hotel school, I said to myself, listen, what is the fastest way for me to start making my dreams come true? And obviously it was entrepreneurship. And at that time, the Gulf region, the Arabian Gulf region, was going through a huge expansion. And I mean, up until then, nobody knew what Dubai was. And Dubai was really the first success story of the region. So I said to myself, listen, let me take what I've learned and let me use whatever local contacts my dad has in the region. And that's why the first company I created was called Trait d'Union. Trait d'Union in French means hyphen. So if you want, I'm the link between that European high-end hospitality world to this new appetite, if you want, to open up hotels and restaurants.
Wow.
In the Middle East or in the Gulf. So that was my first foray into entrepreneurship.
I love it. And it's great that you said what you just said. For those that are listening, and I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs here on the podcast and just in my day-to-day, of course. And, that tends to be a trending, thing there. It's, of course, not the whole world is a successful entrepreneur like yourself. Trending in the sense that it comes from who they absorb it from. Let's say their environment, right? The dad or the uncle or the friends, whatever that rich dad, poor dad, it could be the dad next door. You get some energy from, right? And then it's more so about that one thing you mentioned, a lot of it, but the tools. You basically utilize the contacts that your dad had, and you thought about an idea. Let me connect these dots. So it's very important, I love that you said that those that hear this, it's all about utilizing what's around you, right? You can't be like, what if I had this? Because everyone sits there and they're like, oh, I don't have that thing like that other guy has. I can't do it. Or he has this better than me, and they feel like they're not capable. But yet, they have it around them. You know, if they look a little bit closer, they call a few more people, they reach, they do the extra step, right, Brahms? Ian, you know, they'll connect that dot. Oh wait, you have a friend in Dubai that's building. Okay, you know. So it's all about utilizing what's around you. I'm so happy you mentioned that, and it's awesome to hear that you did that. That's big because it tells me a lot. You know how to really, you know, make the maximum of everything, right? So I understand that. So what happened next? So I read that you built this company. Did you sell this company? I don't want to jump forward on this.
So this is actually one of the babies that I didn't
Okay.
sell, and it's funny that you brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. One of the things.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I, if you want, it's a trait of me as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I have zero attachment to my creations. See what I mean? Many people out there, they build a company and they really have this emotional bond with it that come hell or high water, they're going to stick to it. Me, no. I love it as long as it works. The moment I feel an opportunity to spin it off or sell it at its peak, I have no problem, if you want, selling it before it turns into something bigger. I leave that margin of potential profit or potential gain to that investor that's going to take it along the line. And that helps me, if you want, accelerate and get into the next venture. So straight after Trade Union, I had a lot of wealthy clients, and these clients, if you want, had very extreme lifestyle needs. So I'd be sleeping at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I get a call and tell me, listen, Brahms, I'm in like Saint-Tropez and this bouncer won't let me in because I'm like dressed funny. So could you talk to him and take care of him and everything? And I have to speak French to the bouncer, telling him, please take care of this guy. He'll take care of you. He's fine. He's not going to make any issues. Please let him in. And the requests kept coming in and coming in. And of course, me being who I am, that rang a bell that there's a potential venture in that field that is worth exploring. So my next, if you want, startup after that was a small boutique company, a small boutique concierge service, which was in-house, a few young ladies that I trained personally. And I just taught them how to pick up the phone and answer. Again, mind you, no internet, well, primitive internet, no social media. You couldn't pick up and ask for like to watch a page and to speak to someone and be linked to like a call center. No, it was all like dial up and speak to someone. It's like really, really old school. And so one day, this company became so big that it caught the attention of a member of the British royal family who wanted to build the biggest member club on earth, which is up until now, quintessentially, the best and greatest members club on earth. I mean, our clients were Madonna, Gwyneth Paltrow, Bill Clinton, 50 Cent, members of royal families all across the world. I mean, these were the greatest 10 years of my life. So I basically partnered with them to turn my baby concierge company and his new, if you want, dream of turning it into the greatest concierge company to what it is today, the biggest, most successful, most glamorous, if you want, members club on earth. So much so that Forbes magazine calls us Beyond Black. So it's a reference to the Centurion Amex Black card.
Yes.
So that was my second venture.
Really cool.
Wow. Quite amazing. Quite amazing. I love it. Right? Ian, I see you nodding over there. That's cool, right?
Yeah, because you mentioned, the baby, like you're still holding on to that. And that's how I feel about the Billionaires Club too. I have all these different ventures I'm getting into. I'm not really that much attached. If there's an opportunity to sell, I would sell, whatever, but not the Billionaires Club. That's like my baby. And I feel that's how I have all my relationships.
We all have those little pet companies.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Yeah, 100%. Same thing too. Like I have the magazine. I'm with the Billionaires Club too, but I own my magazine, and then I have a small leather goods company where we handcraft small leather goods with crocodile and leather, fine leathers. And it's called Michael Lewis. And I always felt like it was my child. Always. It's 10 years old now. Like this is how I talk to my. You know what I mean? It's like a baby, and I just had a baby girl about 6 weeks ago.
Wow, touch wood.
Thank you so much. And it's like, I literally feel like I had another baby, it's a weird thing, but I feel what you said, there's a lot of that emotional attachment, but that's something I love. And I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm starting to think like, more entrepreneurially, right? And less I don't want to use the word immature because it's not immature, but emotionally, You get where I'm going? Yeah. Because it's
Exactly.
definitely not that at all. Like the
Think a bit more
Billionaires
here
Club.
and less with here.
Yeah, the Billionaires Club, I would never recommend to sell. You know, it's unbelievable. It grows. It has a different type of potential to it. You know, not just, you know, other things, let's say. I don't know. But I agree with what you said.
And exactly, Michael, you touched upon that. Sometimes what Ian was saying, it's not necessarily the companies that produce more money than the ones that we love. Some of them have different kinds of benefits than money. And I would imagine, for example, the Billionaires Club, the networking, the relationships, the storytelling, the content creation. These are things that are, if you want, immaterial and not necessarily the goose that lays the most golden eggs.
Exactly, like legit billionaires, they'll just come right into our account, DM us. We're communicating with them all the time. You know, it's amazing, and you know that you can't really put a dollar on that. You know, because it's up to us to turn it into what we can turn it into. You know,
we're having dinners with them, hanging out. You know, so on and off the gram. You know, and here we're doing it too with the podcast. You know, so
yeah, exactly.
Love it.
Yeah, so Brahms, that's an unbelievable story. So at this time, did you exit out of that company entirely, or you're still kind of involved with it?
Yes.
You exited.
Yes, I did because I got married and I had kids. And this is not necessarily the lifestyle you want to live if you want to remain a family man. I mean, I would travel 70, 80, 90 times a year. I would travel with clients to take care of their like tiniest whims. I would have to stay up with them late night because, you know, you're their companion. So they would want you to come with them to New York to party at the Nobu, or they want you to go to the south of France for the summer. And it's not feasible once you really want to build yourself a family. So if you want, this was the first tier of my entrepreneurship, my entrepreneurial career, the tier where I would do anything. See what I mean? It was like business first, my career first, building my empire first. Everything else came second. And what I mean by everything, unfortunately, some of the side effects of being an entrepreneur, and not everybody knows that, is the connections that you will have to lose, the friendships that you may not be able to nurture anymore,
100%.
or that social circle that you used to be part of that was great when you were young, but not necessarily beneficial to where you're going today. Someone told me like, you're the average of the 3 people you hang out with. See what I mean?
Literally just said like my life in a few sentences. And
judging by that, I mean, there was no hope for me to get anywhere. So.
Which I'm sure you do too. I love this group of kids I grew up with in high school and all that. I love them more than anybody. I think about them all the time, right? But I'm so zoned on these things I want to create. It's natural, you know, and I try my best to put energy into these things. And I think that's something about maturing and, you know, blocking your time to really balance that social and everything, as weird as it sounds. But you really got to think like this when you're really like driven, right? You're so mentally pulled to create and nurture this machine that you're building. It's quite interesting. I hear what you're saying, you know, and it's logical, but I'm happy you emphasize that because I feel it, you know, it's real. You know,
it's obvious and it's natural if you want, for maybe someone like us, someone who's actually been there. I think these are one of the elements that are very difficult to convey theoretically when talking to young entrepreneurs. Some of them think they're Superman, that they can really multitask and be a great family guy and be a great nightclubber and be a great friend and barbecue with your friends, until you've actually done it yourself and set priorities for your time, for your schedule, for your well-being. It is going to be difficult to balance all these things out. So natural, yes, but you got to try it first to see.
100%, 100%. So understood. So you exited, quite an amazing story company, as we touched on, and then you're now focused on the family. You said you had a child, right? You, your wife, you have a girl or a son, or no, you don't have any kids.
Yes, but between then and the kids, there's about, if you want, 8 years there. So that was the first tier. So there's still the second tier and then the kids. So
so what's the second tier? Yes.
All right. So the second tier was marriage. All right. And luckily I met my wife very, very early on, and we were like best friends. We were studying in the same town, but not the same university. So we would see each other on weekends. And what I loved about Tina was that her father, rest her soul, was absolutely a huge entrepreneur himself in the Gulf. So she's already been raised in a house where she understands what it means to grind,
Yes.
etc. And she loved that idea too. So the moment we graduated, we became business partners. And it's been 25 years now that we're business partners as well as personal partners. And so it was a series of building companies that I know Tina could handle. And I know that this was something she was interested in. So throughout those years, we built Shayaka, which is the Arab world's premier, this is for you, Michael, fashion concierge business. So if you need like a Birkin now delivered to your house in Paris now, you could do that. See what I mean? It's like a wish service for the upscale fashion industry. And then Tina got pregnant. So I spent a lot of time at home with her. And of course, me being itchy, not to be able to go to work like I used to, I spent a lot of my time gaming and playing consoles. And one day she just walked in and said, listen, if you don't find a way to turn this into a business, I'm going to throw the PlayStation out the window.
Yeah.
Why not?
I feel you. My girl was the same thing. Yeah.
So fast forward 6 months, I built athaddaq.com, which is the first esports company in the Arab world, over 3.5 million online users.
Amazing.
And that's it. I kept going from one, if you want online business, I got the online bug. I opened Bidzid, which is also the Arab world's first bid to buy, you know, those bidding websites when they first came out.
Yes.
Spun
Let me ask you,
those.
so what was the name of that site, the gaming streaming site? It was
it's a bit difficult because it's an Arabic word. It's called athaddaq. The h in Arabic is a 7. So it's A-T-7-A-D-D-A-K.
Because I saw that. How did you manage to get 3.5 million people onto this platform, this site in a monthly like that? Is it monthly or over a year?
No, it was like within 3 months, 6 months, we were already number one. Well, number one, we were the first ones to do it. But I mean, everybody was so excited that there was something called Facebook. And I think Facebook came around 2006, 2007. So that was the time I was spending it at home. Everybody got the bug of, you know, like the Facebook was a place where I could meet my friends and socialize online. So I said, you know what, let me tailor it. And this is a place where I can meet my friends and challenge them online. And we created the world's first automated gaming software. So let's say Michael and Ian want to play like NFL, Madden right now. In the past, you had to always manually input the scores. And now that's going to lead to a lot of cheating and disputes and manpower. I always like my companies to be streamlined. I don't want too much HR in it. So I like gave the guys like 3 months, like sitting in a room, the coders that I had, the computer engineers. I told them, listen, I want you to create the first automated gaming software on earth. And this is like Lebanon. We're like a tiny country the size of your smallest city in the US. See what I mean? So our resources are very, very limited. And they spent their 3 months and they built the first automated gaming software, the same gaming software that Major League Gaming in the US didn't have, and pitched to buy the company from us just so they can have that engine. So for me, that was one of the biggest success stories, just because, I mean, monetarily it was great, but I mean, it wasn't like the most successful because there was a lot of costs involved. You know,
it's hard to monetize that then too.
It's very, especially those days.
Yeah,
Michael,
you could have 1 million
online,
people. You're like, wait,
Google
how do I
ads.
make money with this?
Exactly.
That's
Selling,
the Mark Cubans of the world, even the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you remember how much he struggled in the beginning.
He had millions of people. He's probably like, okay, do we upload like a little game app and they play and put money in there? Like, what do we do now?
We used to buy stickers. I mean, maybe you were too young to remember, but we used to buy stickers on Facebook, and that was the first
stickers. I don't remember buying anything, but
yeah, we had to buy stickers because that was the first way you could actually buy something on Facebook or spend money on Facebook.
That's amazing.
So that's it. I mean, it's easy in retrospect to talk about gaming and competitive gaming and esports right now. I mean,
it's
this
huge.
Is 20 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, it's like a league today. You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
Esports is huge. I know.
Online gaming. Yeah, like streaming, you know, these kids make so much money. Anyone, they do very well with it.
None of that. We had none of that. Yeah.
I hear you. So then after this, you know, you exited that. So you did the brand with your wife, the accessibility to get these
the fashion business, and we did the online, if you want, the online casino. which is the
I
bidding
like that too. Yeah,
platform.
that was the next one. So then you did this game.
That was the most legal way to print money.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
So
great.
that's like a
It
very
only
fine
lasted 6
line.
months.
Like the bidding companies, we own a media agency. That's my primary business. My family
Okay.
and I, yeah, we own a pretty large media agency, privately owned, and we get requests from, let's say, CBD companies, or the gaming and the casinos and
Shady one.
types of, it's very, there's a gray space.
The
It's
gray
hard
area.
to place this media on billboards or in Forbes or on social. It's hard to work in.
And Michael, it's funny you should say that.
Yeah.
Again, this is like some of the, what, I don't know, gifts, or I won't call them talent. I mean, there's a kind of intuition
Yes,
being
yes.
an entrepreneur. I foresaw that we were going to have this problem down the road. I mean, we got to a point where growing was costing us so much because the likes of yourself weren't accepting our ads, right? And therefore, we had to pay a lot more money to grow.
Premium.
So this was an example where I sold a company on the future income stream that was to come.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to get a massive valuation and get it sold in the Emirates. Actually, it was a Dubai fellow that bought it from us on the premise of this future, if you want, cash flow that was to come into the company. I didn't get greedy myself and say, you know what, I'm going to milk it for the next 2-3 years.
Yes,
I
yes.
said, let's build this NPV, if you want, into the company right now, this net present value, and discount the cash flow over the next 10 years and let him benefit from that. And that's how we were able to sell it at a higher price, because the likes of yourself were going to tell me down the road, I'm sorry, you do not fit our, if you want, promotional platform, because you are in this gray area.
100%. It's quite crazy. And then today, what's going on with stake.com.
Absolutely.
Like, they got Drake, like it's pretty crazy. And it's still like they maneuver and stuff, of course, but it's quite interesting. Let me ask you, I'm listening to you. You're unique, you're awesome, starting companies aren't easy. Managing them, running them is not easy. Selling them is a whole nother type of skill. Yeah. So how did you get skilled at learning how to prep and organize and pitch and sell a company? Who told you?
Trial and error. Trial and error, Michael. It was absolute trial and error. There were no books about the subject. I mean, building a company and selling it, it was even...
It's not so much spoken about. It is, but when you go into the entrepreneurial world, I feel, I don't know it all. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but like 10% or 20% even think this way. They're so driven, they're attached, they pocket the company, they hold it, and they want to make money and milk it. Like you said, they think, oh my God, I can get it to this much. They don't really even think about this,
Yeah,
so,
and that's the avant-garde entrepreneurial people. Now, talk about the rest of the people. And it was a complete, if you want, alien concept to them. My father included. I mean, you spent all this time building this company and taking all these risks. Yeah. And now you want to sell it? I think I really was one of the first people in my entourage to really think about exit plans in every company, almost to the point, Michael, where I would build a concept for the sake of exiting it, knowing that I'm not a specialist in the field, but maybe if I was able to get enough eyeballs on a certain field and package it in a way that it seems interesting, I could sell the company on paper. So that's where it got to.
I love it. Yeah, yeah. The book, The 7 Highly Effective Habits of Successful Individuals. Yeah, one of them is seeing the end in sight. And I feel like you create with seeing the end in sight, right? So you have that mentality with it. But so it was trial and error, but like, how did you go about that? I'm just like curious still. I'm still curious, I have some friends. What's maybe one little more insight on it? Like, how you like, you just felt confident. You saw that it's profitability. You had some type of profitability now. You're not attached to it. You, I guess, are passionate about the creation of the companies, not so much about the management.
I was mentioned... Exactly. And in honesty, you make it sound like it's a nice thing, but for me, I believe it's one of my biggest flaws, in that I get bored too easily and I don't see it through. I'm excited about the creation process. I'm not so much a fan of the management process.
Yeah.
I admit I'm not a very good manager. I make friends with my employees and staff very, very quickly, and I treat them as my friends. Some people frown on that. For me, that's the only way I know how to do
I'm the
business.
same way.
I'm not a
You're
good
almost
cost
maybe
cutter.
too nice. You're
I
almost
love
too nice.
spending.
Yeah.
So these are traits that.
Oh, did you hear me? I think I lagged there.
No, I think that's
Yeah. Say again, Michael. I missed that last part.
Yeah, I'm
What do you
sorry to
mean?
even cut you off, but I was just saying I'm
No, no worries.
relating with you that you're almost like too nice, right? You have like a really big heart. It's hard. There's a fine line with that, with managing, your staff, because you
Yeah,
almost
and I don't want to change. I
Yeah.
mean, I know I might be too nice, but that doesn't mean I'm going to change for the sake of the business to work. I would prefer not to work. See what I mean? And that's why I have very, very tiny teams in my company. Once I learned that I'm not management material.
Wow, very, very important to learn that, because that's something business owners, they struggle with forever. And the company doesn't succeed, doesn't grow, and it's just them wearing 19 hats, and that's a big thing,
Yeah.
But pretty good that you noted that.
Nightmare
It's,
for
it's
me.
interesting. Yeah. So then after your businesses, is that it with tier two, or you have
Michael, 1 second. Let me change the Wi-Fi setting because maybe I'm downstairs.
yeah, it's freezing up just a little bit.
Yeah, we've been okay, I think, and we could always edit and shop if anything's a little messed up.
Yeah.
Am I freezing it all, Ian?
No, you're good. I
Okay.
think I'm good, right?
Yeah, you're good too.
Okay. Is it
All
better
right.
now?
Yeah, you're good,
Yeah.
Brahms.
Okay,
It's
good.
all good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I was losing you guys and I was worried about the Wi-Fi connection down here.
Okay. And we could always edit a little bit here and there. And yeah, so Brahms, is that it with the
Exactly,
tier two?
perfect.
Or you had other businesses within this tier two? Because I know you did a lot. I want to ask you a few other.
I had about a dozen or so publishing style businesses, but they were all more or less the same. It was like a cookie cutter approach that worked with the gaming website. I did the same thing with like football or soccer. I did the same thing with fashion and lifestyle. So it was my online phase.
Okay.
And I loved it because it meant working from home more, seeing my wife more, seeing my kid more. And if you like, the third phase started out in a very drastic, if you want, a very dramatic, if you want, approach. In 2016, I think, yeah, 2016, where I was at the peak of my career. My websites were doing well. My exits were doing well. I was like faced with the biggest obstacle, and that's why I call it the if you want, the third phase in my entrepreneurial life, because now I'm in a much more zen, if you want, kind of phase. I got the call that everyone absolutely dreads getting. On the day, or if you want, the eve of my wife delivering our second baby, I got a call and the doctor told me I had cancer. Okay, nothing bad, but I mean, just the word itself.
No, it's terrible.
Enough to stop your heart.
No,
so,
100%.
Yeah. So here I was. I mean, this guy that I thought of myself as indestructible. I mean, I'd won every award I set my head out to get. I put my heart and soul into my businesses, and every achievement I wanted to do, I got. And here was this tiny, minuscule, if you want, a few millimeters that were going to stop me right in my progress and basically froze my entire machine. So that was the start of, if you want, the new chapter in my entrepreneurial life, where I had to basically stop working. I sold everything. I sold my businesses. I sold my office. I got my staff work right and left, and I got them employed at different other companies. And I said bye to everyone. And I spent 6 months at home in my room, crying my eyes out, not talking to anyone, even though it wasn't life-threatening. It's just the fact of being ill and being sick, and all the treatment that comes with it broke me. In all honesty, it really did break me. And I never thought of myself as someone that can be broken.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it gave me a lot of perspective. I was able to spend a lot more time with my family. I got to spend a lot more time at home. And this time at home, as again, was the spark that started this new chapter in my life. So I was at home, basically in my boxers, and I opened an Instagram account and I started posting images of food because I'm a huge foodie ever since I can remember.
Mhm.
And the great thing about these images or about this content is that they were unfiltered. You know, like when you're facing death, you really don't give a crap about anything anymore. What I could like make an omelet in my grape smugglers and I wouldn't give a crap. I could like curse and like drink at 8 a.m. and I wouldn't give a crap. It's like basically you do not care about norms anymore because like you basically cheated death. So you could do anything you want and get away with it. This kind of, if you want, free thinking attitude was very well welcomed on Instagram, because at that time, of course, Instagram wasn't as big as Facebook, and everybody was like scared to get naughty or like scared to get their hands dirty.
Let's follow the
let's follow the rules. I mean,
Yeah.
Instagram might shut us down. And I was like, I'd buy a fillet from
butcher.
the butcher.
Yeah.
I take it home. I put some olive oil on it and like be very visual with my fillet and the way I oil it down.
Yeah.
People would go crazy. Are you mad? Like my dad would like see it on Facebook. Are you mad? What are you doing? People are gonna have the wrong impression. It's like I really didn't care because it was funny to me, and I really wanted it to be funny to everyone else. And I've learned that when you're not scared or we don't limit yourself, that some great things can happen.
Yeah.
So that was the birth of Daddy Foody. I mean, the name Daddy Foody was like the two things I love most in life: being a father and being a gourmet. I mean, I would travel for food. I remember going once to New York, a flight to New York. I took the red eye just to eat a burger at Minetta Tavern, all right, in New York, which is until now one of the greatest burgers. It's called the Black Label. It's like one of the greatest burgers on earth. So what I mean, so Daddy Foody was really my platform to be myself. So I had no clients. I had no, if you want, regulations. I had no schedules. I had no obligation. It was me, unfiltered, unadulterated me. And for some reason, it resonated. People picked it up. People liked it. And 3 years down the road, I'm winning the World Blogger Awards in Cannes with Nusret Salt Bay by my side, Victoria Silvstedt by my side, Gianluca Vacci sitting at my table, Kim Kardashian's best friend, food god Shaban, sitting at my. I couldn't believe it. I mean, this is something that I really created out of my bedroom to get out of the funk and depression that I was in, and look where it landed me.
Unbelievable. Such an amazing story, man. Appreciate you sharing all of that. Very inspiring. And it's awesome to see you. Now you have over 500,000 followers, right, on your channel. And it's such an interesting story. Ian, how amazing is this? From starting the businesses, the exiting, the family, the health, you know, and then it turned into this, and you're still going. You have such a good energy and uplifting energy. So let me ask you now, because this is such an awesome conversation. I want to ask you a few questions that tailor into this all naturally. What keeps you so driven? You know, like, do you have like a certain type of morning routine? I love asking this question. Is there a pattern to your routines? I know with the Daddy Foody, you do when you want, what you want. It's chill. It's no zone or marginalization. But there's got to be something. There's got to be a pattern to your time, your day-to-day, how you think, you know, I feel. Is there any pattern to that morning routine?
You know, sometimes you like to like prepare for these kinds of questions and say like you have something like smart or interesting to tell them. But in all honesty, I don't have a routine per se. What keeps me going, I think, is there's a plague. I think there's a sickness inside me. And this sickness is basically the never-ending pursuit of creation.
That voice talking.
There's a voice. Right? There's a calling in there that tells you like.
You can't chill. You can't go on the beach and open the umbrella and kick a volleyball.
And think, wow, there's a better way to make this umbrella. Or like the
Yes.
guy brings you a burger and says, you know what, I can make a better one from home.
Oh my God.
That's why I call it a plague. If Michael,
Yes.
it's a curse. It's not a blessing, because we can never relax.
I-
On holidays, we're never chill.
No,
My
I'm
wife is like,
relaxing,
"For
working.
fuck's sake, can you
Yeah,
just
this
sit
right
down and
here,
enjoy your
Brahms,
meal?"
what we're doing right now, I love this. I literally looked forward to this. You know, I feel like not that maybe other people wouldn't, but people will be like, "Oh, that's work." You know, like what I love what I'm doing. You know, I think that's what you're saying. I look around me too. I'll see this clock, and I'm like, "Wait, how much does it cost to manufacture this thing? And how much would it cost us to market it? And just for fun, not that I have any interest in going to that.
Exactly.
I'm
Selling umbrellas.
naturally like, you know what I mean? I get it, and you kind of can't turn it off, right? But
No.
but you need to almost. I'm trying to like mature with that, you know.
Live with it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But what would you be your insight on that even? So you're touching to this morning routine too. You know, I want to. What's your insight further on this?
All right, you're going to be disappointed with the routine issue. I mean, you keep circling back to it, and I really would like
if there is no routine, then I love that too. You know,
let me tell you, and let me take you back to Switzerland, right?
Okay.
So when I was in university, and I told you about the whole wanting to take the elevator and not interested in climbing corporate.
Look for the penthouse button. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've always been the guy that looked at maximizing ROI, right? I wanted efficiency. I want the least amount of input for the most amount of output. And that's the same in my life. Now, some people call it lazy. It's not lazy. It's like I've worked my ass off for 20 years so I can stay in the morning and not have to get up. I've never seen the inside of a gym. I mean, you can tell. This is not, I have different priorities than other people, and some of them are unhealthy. I love to eat meat. I love my burgers. I love bumming around the house when I really don't need to work. So my morning routine, as much as possible, is wake up in the morning in the most positive way I can. Uh, Try to get any demons out from the night before that have, creeped around. And these demons can be bills, fighting with loved ones, my kids not doing well at school, the neighbor making too much noise. See what I mean? So to try as much as I can for the well-being of my wife and my kids in the morning, to wake up on the cleanest slate possible and to give them the best of me, and to try as much as possible to filter out negativity in life. So if I can do that every morning, I consider myself off to a great start. I mean, in terms of routine, that's as much routine as you're going to probably get out of me.
Yeah, no, whatever works for you. You know, it's an interesting question. You know, when we ask it, we get a lot of different insight. And
I mean, I read all these blogs online, and I'm honestly intimidated sometimes. I'm like emasculated.
Like Superman, right?
I wake up at 5. I like read my newspaper. I jog for half an hour. I hit the shower. I do, bro. How? How do you have the energy? I mean, after that, I need a nap.
An ice bucket or something. They do this, do that.
Yeah, I have an ice bath.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
The water, if it's not 30 degrees, I won't even be able to swim in it.
Yeah. It's all about what works for you, right? Like some people, like Ian's a vegan. So when you say I love burgers, Ian's probably like, if it's a veggie burger, you know.
Yeah, I'm all about the veggie.
I'm taking you to Minetta Tavern, Ian. That's where I'm going to convert you.
Come on.
I've been vegan my entire life, so.
Wow. But yeah, so that's amazing, and I like that. I agree with sometimes you need to bum around the house, relax, right? And it's all about creating that lifestyle, so you have that luxury to get up and do you, right? And I like that you give your energy. Yeah,
Michael, everybody works for, not everybody, some people work for a Lamborghini. Some people work to have a massive mansion. Some people work for buying a ticket to go to the moon. I've worked my whole life for one thing only: freedom. The freedom to wake up at whatever time I want, the freedom to do anything I want at any time. And for me, if you were to ask me, what is the definition of luxury and success for you? For me, it's freedom.
I feel that.
Because that's it. That is the ultimate luxury, and no money in the world can buy it. Freedom.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, very interesting.
Free time, yeah.
All right, so tailoring into the next, and I appreciate your feedback and insight on that. I want to ask you something. You know, throughout your career, which we've just detailed a bit on, is I'm sure a million of the little details. But you know, what would be something that you've looked back on, and we may have touched on a few amazing things, maybe something new or different that comes top of mind that you would feel would be fruitful, whether it would be a moment of a hurdle, like you know the health thing you came across, perhaps there's another moment whether it's a hurdle or a successful moment, something that was so meaningful to you that you really sat back and thought about and it was fruitful. Is there anything that you could speak on, you know, that could be rather fruitful for the audience to hear? You know, any moment that was a hurdle, it was like a black hole coming and you just maneuvered around it, you know, or you learned from it. Is there something that comes top of mind?
Absolutely. Or there's two main ones. There's one that we've already talked upon,
Okay.
which is the health hurdle,
Yes.
and then there's a financial hurdle. That one that's equally, if you want, as devastating as the first one. I don't know if you guys have been watching the current affairs in Lebanon or what's going on lately. We've just had our Venezuela moment. 2 years ago, Lebanon, its financial sector as well as its banking sector has completely collapsed. So basically, let me walk you through it. Everything we've talked about today, all these 30 startups and success stories and exits and money and wealth, I took all that and I put it in the bank, right? In a bank in Lebanon. And 2 years ago, when our banking system exploded, our banks went out of business, everyone lost their deposits. So everything I've worked for, my entire existence, almost went down the drain. So there you go. You wanted an obstacle, that's an obstacle for you.
And when was that exactly?
That was 2 years ago.
This was 2 years ago. And what
2
was
years ago.
the,
So
if you don't mind
from
me
2 years until now,
Yes.
I'm basically rebuilding myself from scratch,
That's
learning the
it with
ropes.
that's it with all your funds. They don't, there's no like, there's nothing.
No, there's no way. There's no way. Yeah. You could wait maybe 10, 15 years when the IMF comes in and starts, you know, they'll give you shares in the bank and stuff. You can consider them gone. So I had two options. I could either sit and cry like everybody else and say, oh my God, my money's gone. Or I can use this time to do something else and try to get the money back. Which is what I did.
So what was the value that you learned from that? To just not put your head down, to stay up and keep going, right?
Well, you know what the value is, Michael? I should have listened to my friends and spent all that money on hookers, on drugs, on travel, and had a great fucking time instead of being a good dad and a good father and preparing a nest egg for my kids. I mean, what? I mean, there's no good deed goes unpunished. See what I mean? Trying to do the good thing, look where it got us.
Yeah.
And if you've done it before, it's so easy to do it again, you know? And
it's much easier again. It's much easier now.
And it's very important, which I don't need to tell you, but diversifying, right? Like buying an apartment, something physical, buying this, buying that, and you know, rather than having, I guess, one thing. But
I had diversified a little bit, and that was, if you want, what hedged us from being completely poor.
Gotcha.
See what I mean? It's this 20% hedge, if you want, that kept us on our feet throughout the whole time. Something else that kept us on our feet, after this, if you want, nightmare of an experience, I completely fell out of love and started hating the banking sector. And so at the time, crypto was like the thing. It was like really coming in mainstream. And I said to myself, you know what? I will never deal with banks again. I always want to self-bank. I never want to be part of this enslavement, if you wish. And I opened a company called Crypt with a Y. And if you want, I brought in some traders and I told them, listen, I'm going to take whatever's left of my family's money and friends' money, if you want, and explode it and really create something amazing with it. So fast forward 2 years, I was almost able to match what used to be in the banks just from pure crypto trading. And at the same time, I opened the country's biggest crypto mining company. So within Crypt. And so we had ASIC miners, we had helium miners, we had hotspot miners, we had Ethereum GPUs. And we were able to get, you know, into the whole crypto system. We're all self-banked right now. We never touch banks. We transfer everything if you want B2B through our platforms. And
Yeah.
so that was again one of the lessons I've learned is not depend so much on storing all your assets
Yes.
in a
Oh,
bank, because
100%.
something like this can happen. It happened to you guys almost in 2008. I was there in New York when I
Mm,
saw the guys from Lehman Brothers carrying their
yeah,
their
boxing.
boxes out, and I couldn't believe what was going on. I
Yeah.
thought I learned my lesson, but unless you like burn your finger yourself, you're never gonna know that the
Yeah.
stove is hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so that was another obstacle that I somehow was able to navigate around.
Quite interesting. And let me ask you, when you start these companies, Crypt and this one and that one, you have like an immediate small team that you'll just deploy these ideas to
Yeah,
and task to, right?
yeah.
Okay.
There's always like a nucleus that sticks around wherever I
Yes.
go, and but I mean it's varied. I mean this the specialty that each one needs to know are so varied and so specialized that like for this for the instance in Crypt, I couldn't bring anyone from my old background
Yeah.
because it was like real trading, and you need to understand blockchain, and you need to
Yeah. It's
understand
new. It's new.
platforms. So it
It's
was different.
difficult.
So
That's what I'm
as
touching
much as I
on.
can, I try to keep this nucleus with me, but I
Yes.
always need to like bring on new people.
Yeah, 100%. Because you'll see, like, okay, this person has this skill, but they're not even thinking about any of this. And then this one has,
Exactly.
right? It's very hard. The management, like we touched on, that's a whole nother thing.
Exactly. And
Pretty
again, there's the
interesting how
danger
you
of the buddies.
I'm sorry?
And again, there's the danger of the buddies. I mean, employing your friends
Oh,
or
yeah,
being too
yeah.
friendly
Energy can
with the
change
team.
it.
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
also
yeah.
something I'm trying to learn
I
to
like
work with.
that. Yeah, yeah. It's awesome, man. It's so well, I'm so happy we connected. You know, another question as we wrap up, I want to ask you, do you happen to read books at all? I know you touched on before, you don't really that's not really your thing maybe, but if you do you like books at all or not so much?
I don't like books. I liked one book in life, and I believe this was like really my aha moment in the
Okay,
world
I'm
of
happy. Okay.
entrepreneurship.
I
One
wanted to
book.
ask you what was the aha moment too. So you give me, I
Uh,
would love
all
to know.
right. It's a book called Funky Business. It's written by two Swedish gentlemen. I forgot their names. Nordstrom is one of them, and the other guy I forgot. All right. And these guys are, if you want, the hippies of the business world. And the tagline for the book, and I would love to get it tattooed if I wasn't so scared of needles, is talent makes capital dance. And for me, that was my motto for the rest of my life. I mean, even though I was born to like a conservatively uh, middle class family, for me, capital wasn't an obstacle to becoming successful. Talent was. And as long as I was talented, and as long as I could tune my expertise, and as long as I had something that everybody wanted, it was easy to raise the funds and get the capital. So talent makes capital dance.
I
The
love it.
one and only business book I've ever read. The only book I've ever read.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely awesome.
Love that tagline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very cool. I got to check that out. And I
Thank
really appreciate you, Brahms, coming on. You know, we're always here in your corner to support, and whenever you're here in New York, let us know. Ian's in Miami. I'm in New York, so vice versa. Connect with us. And truly, thank you so much for your time. You're absolutely awesome, man. Absolutely
Thank you
amazing.
so much, guys. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for
you.
your time, for listening. Thank you for this amazing platform that you've invited me to. And I do hope you and our listeners today can at least get something out of it.
100%.
Oh,
Thank you,
yeah.
Brahms. All love. Appreciate you.
Take
All right.
care, guys.
Keep up
Take
all the
care.
amazing things. All right.
Ciao.
Thank you.
You
Ciao,
too.
ciao. Bye bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you for watching this episode. We upload a new episode every Friday at 5 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. We as well greatly appreciate those that have subscribed to the channel. We appreciate the love and the support. Lastly, if you've missed last week's episode, tune into the episode right here.